We should not rule out the possibility that China would use force against Taiwan. But my belief is that it is unlikely that China will use force in the near future, even for the rest of this decade.
各位小军台湾 Plus 所有观众朋友，台湾这2天来了葛来仪，他是谁呢？好，葛来仪我们来介绍一下，波士顿大学政治学学士，他也是约翰霍普金斯大学国际研究学院的硕士学位。他的专长，过去您所知道，在中国研究。在两岸关系，包括了国际经济，他是美国华府智库德国马歇尔基金会的亚洲计划室主任，也曾经在美国智库战略与国际研究中心 CSIS 担任亚洲顾问。他是在台海关系方面非常重要的一位人物。今天小军台湾 Plus 独家专访到他，他来到我们现场，欢迎 Glasser。Hello, Miss Glasser, welcome to my YouTube channel, 小军台湾 Plus Show。As program host and producer, I would like to introduce to our audience today's guest, Miss Bonnie Glasser, who is the director of the Asia program at the German Marshall Fund. Miss Glasser is an expert in China-U.S. relationship as well as cross-strait relations. It's really an honor to have you in my show. Miss Glasser, can I call you Bonnie?
Yes, please call me Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie. Would you tell us the primary purpose of the German Marshall Fund delegation's visit to Taiwan?
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. I have a delegation now in Taiwan that is composed of 5 Europeans and 5 Americans. And the purpose is to strengthen relations between Taiwan and the United States and between Taiwan and Europe. So each member of the delegation has a different area of expertise. They are mid-career, younger professionals who can bring Taiwan into the work that they are already doing. So, for example, there is an expert from Lithuania on disinformation and media. There's an expert who is from Italy on Japan and wants to learn more about Japan's relations with Taiwan. We have a few experts who are from Germany, one that focuses on defense and one that focuses on technology and supply chain resilience. And then there are Americans who focus on a range of other issues that they can bring Taiwan into, such as disaster relief, where Taiwan has so much expertise that it can bring to the world. So the goal is really to strengthen Taiwan's ties with the rest of the world, and I hope that each of these individuals will come away from this visit sharing my passion that I have for Taiwan and strengthening its security and its relationship with the international community.
It's wonderful. Following the U.S. Shutting down of the suspected Chinese spy balloon, we can anticipate rising U.S.-China tensions. As a recognized expert on U.S.-China-Taiwan trilateral relationship, where do you see U.S.-China relations going from here?
Well, I think that the U.S.-China relationship is going to be very fraught for some time. There's no doubt that this is a very competitive relationship. At times, the relationship will even be confrontational. Whether it is the spy balloon incident that was something that was unexpected, or things that we actually anticipate, such as growing Chinese pressure on Taiwan, and the use of economic coercion against countries, we know that there are going to be many elements of this bilateral relationship that are going to have to be managed, but will continue to introduce tensions into the relationship. I think that the United States and China, neither country wants to go to war. They don't think that they would benefit from a military conflict. So there is an incentive for both sides to try to manage the relationship. Both believe that communication channels are important. And when President Biden met with China's leader, Xi Jinping, in Bali, Indonesia, at the G20 last November, they did agree that they should keep communication channels open. One of the problems, however, is that the most important communication channel really is at the highest level. The leaders can only meet so often, but now they're talking about having another phone call. The U.S. really wants to put a floor under the relationship. It wants to prevent further deterioration in the relationship. So I think that they will continue to try to manage their differences, but I think that there are some factors ahead of us that are going to cause potentially some further tensions. And one, for example, is China's relationship with Russia. This is of great concern to the United States. We expect that Xi Jinping is going to be visiting Moscow, possibly in April. There are many reports that China actually may be considering providing lethal assistance to Russia and its military operation in Ukraine. And if that happens, then I think that we will see this relationship reach new lows, and it may consolidate further support from the international community to put more pressure on China. That friction and tension between the United States and China affects every country in the world. Taiwan is not alone in that regard, and countries are trying to figure out how to maneuver to protect their own interests. So some don't want to take sides, but there are many, many countries that feel it is important to work together with the United States to pressure China so that its impact on the international system and on peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific can be limited so that it is not very negative for the interests of other countries.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. There had been concern about possible Chinese invasion of Taiwan with the timetable set from 2025 to 2049. What is your opinion about this? Do you think China will resort to the use of force? If so, when and how?
We should not rule out the possibility that China would use force against Taiwan. And if the Chinese, for whatever reasons, decided that they wanted to take the risk, they could do it sooner rather than later. But my belief is that it is unlikely that China will use force in the near future, even for the rest of this decade, unless it is really provoked. I think we actually have a very good understanding of what Chinese red lines are. I think that actually if Taiwan declared independence, that China would probably be compelled to launch some operation against Taiwan. So there are circumstances in which China could be provoked. But if we look at Xi Jinping's calculus of what the price is that he would pay if he invades Taiwan, if the PLA fails, that could call into question the legitimacy of Chinese Communist Party rule in China. And Xi Jinping's, I think, foremost priority is to keep China on this path toward achieving national rejuvenation by the middle of this century. That's what, of course, he has labeled the Chinese dream. And if launching an attack on Taiwan is going to derail that effort, to prevent him from achieving that goal, then I think he is unlikely to use force against Taiwan. So I think that we, Taiwan, the United States, other countries, have to make sure that we are taking actions that shape and influence Xi Jinping's calculus, so that every day Xi Jinping wakes up and says, today is not the day that I see it as in my interest to invade Taiwan. And I think there is much that the international community and Taiwan can do in order to strengthen deterrence and prevent Xi Jinping from using force. But we have to be prepared. Taiwan must demonstrate it has the determination to defend itself, and the United States has to build more capability so that we have the ability to defend Taiwan if necessary.
Yeah, it's really a truth. You have been a friend of Taiwan for decades, watching Taiwan grow and transform. What do you think are some of Taiwan's successful transformation?
Oh, there are so many successful achievements in Taiwan. I lived in Taiwan 1979 to 1980. And of course, Taiwan at that time was under martial law. The society here was very different. And what has happened over the last several decades is the emergence of this amazingly vibrant, colorful democracy, civil society that is so important in Taiwan. And Taiwan having emerged as a leader in things like women empowerment, marriage equality, and the first country in Asia to really have a marriage equality law. These are things everybody in Taiwan should really be proud of. The society here is so different than it was when I lived here 40 years ago. Just huge transformation. And of course, every democracy is a work in progress, including the United States. So there's always more that can be done. We should all aspire to improve our democracies, but it is amazing how much Taiwan has achieved in such a short period of time.
Thanks for your valuable opinions about Taiwan. In your opinion, both Taiwan and the U.S. military need to build our forces, focus on the most offensive weapons to create more deterrence to the Chinese invasion?
Well, I think that the first thing that's important to say is that there's many steps that need to be taken to strengthen deterrence. Weapons is only a small part of it. As I said, Taiwan needs to demonstrate that it is willing to defend itself, and that's the responsibility of all the citizens. It's the whole country. It's not just the military. People need to show that they are willing to fight for their country. Taiwan is in the process of strengthening its reserves. There are some civil society organizations where people are learning how to give medical assistance if there were conflict and people were injured. So there's really so much that needs to be done. I think that in Taiwan, when you think about just weapons, that's just it's a platform, you know. And you need to demonstrate that you have the right training, and that you have the right operational concepts in the military, and that you've integrated the weapons that you acquire into your operational concepts. So the weapons are just a small part of it, an important part of it to be sure. For the United States, we have different challenges, but the U.S. has taken steps recently to try and revise our force posture so we are not concentrated in very vulnerable bases that are very close to China. So having a more distributed force posture, developing new ways, new operational concepts, for example, that how the Marines would really operate in the Indo-Pacific region. It's very different than in the past, actually being on small islands, playing a more defensive role rather than an expeditionary role. So there's a lot of change underway. The United States clearly needs to find ways to counter the advanced weapons that China has acquired. We use the phrase anti-access area denial to describe the sort of suite, the series of capabilities that China has developed that it could use to put at risk U.S. military assets, aircraft or ships that are operating in a crisis. So we have to come up with new ways to be able to have long-range standoff weapons, new technologies like, for example, long-distance lasers that could be used, rather than relying on an aircraft carrier that might operate very close to China. So I think Taiwan has work to do and the U.S. has work to do. It's different, but I think it's important that we coordinate and work together very closely. And that is really the main trend that is underway in our defense relationship. Having seen Russia invade Ukraine, it has been a reminder that war can occur when you don't expect it. And so more and more people are now thinking about, in a very concrete way, how we can ensure that we can defend Taiwan and that Taiwan can defend itself. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Taiwan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Joseph Wu, arrived at AIT office in Arlington, Virginia on February 23rd. Do you think the meeting of the timing of the meeting and the talks is significant?
Well, Foreign Minister Joseph Wu led the delegation from Taiwan to the United States for what we call the Special Channel Talks. And it was somehow leaked before the meetings took place, so it was reported by the media. However, it may not be widely known that this special kind of talks between senior officials from Taiwan and the United States has been taking place since 1997. Almost every year, and it's been a very important opportunity for officials to talk about the most pressing, the most urgent issues in the relationship, and it probably has always covered a range of issues, talking about the issues in the bilateral relationship, maybe Taiwan's participation in the international community. But in recent years, there's been more and more focus on defense and security. This has become so urgent in the U.S.-Taiwan relationship. And there really is a need to talk about how we work together and how we ensure that our militaries are cooperating in the ways that we want, and then our diplomats are working together to advance our shared interests. So these are very important talks, but I'm not convinced that the timing was very significant because you have so many senior people from both sides. They're planned very far in advance. It's not because something urgent has arisen and they need to get together. It really is the plan every year to hold these talks. I believe they've always been held in the United States and in the Washington, D.C. area, but they're usually kept quiet, though in the past they have been reported after they have taken place. It's possible that this was the first time that they were reported before they took place. But of course, the trend has been in recent years that many of the dialogues between the United States and Taiwan that used to be kept under wraps are now really reported publicly. We increasingly see reports about our trade discussions or people in our State Department and Taiwan's Foreign Ministry meeting. But the special channel talks are indeed very special. They do include officials from, very senior officials from both sides and from defense as well as diplomacy and issues relating to trade as well. So we probably come out of those talks with a very rich agenda of to-do items, right? The things that our officials are going to do in the coming months. And that's important, that both sides have a lot of work to do.
So do you think a visit to Washington by an incompetent foreign minister marks the beginning of a new era in Taiwan-U.S. relations?
Well, I don't think it's the first time that an incumbent foreign minister has visited the United States. But it is important that the minister did not visit Washington, D.C., so there has been some unwritten understandings that there are certain senior people in Taiwan that if they come to visit, the United States, that they don't visit Washington, D.C. This, of course, includes Taiwan's president, Tsai Ing-wen, and her predecessors, Ma Ying-jeou, Chen Shui-bian, and Lee Dong-hui.
Yeah.
These are all presidents who transited the United States when they were going to travel to some of Taiwan's diplomatic allies.
Okay, thank you so much, Bonnie. It's just the wonderful, the special time. Thank you so much sharing with your valuable opinions for coming my show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, I hope you will enjoy your stay in Taiwan. Okay.
Thank you so much.
听完了葛莱仪的这一段非常精彩的访问，深深感受到，不管是葛莱仪跟美国见证台湾的民主进程当中，面对外来的武力犯台的威胁，但是台美之间的紧密关系只会往前走，而且正在往更民主的进程正在迈向这项道路当中。不过最后我还是想跟大家分享一段话，美国众议院的中国特别委员会的主席 Michael Glaffer， 他说他从台湾访问回来，很荣幸在台湾跟蔡英文总统见面。他传达的讯息是：今天说我是台湾人，就是一种荣耀的表达。蔡英文总统向他传达就是这个理念。台湾人无视于共产党侵略的黑暗势力，但是反而成长茁壮，建立一个民主国家。他说，他的奶奶曾经告诉他，每个恶霸的内心深处都住着一个懦夫。当艾森豪总统在1960年抵达台湾访问时，共产党一气之下，花了1个礼拜的时间，用了8万5千多发的炮弹炮轰台湾的金门岛。在黑暗中有一支蜡烛，自由、激烈，而且呢，燃烧着跟黑暗势力的对抗。这个势力一直燃烧着，而那一支蜡烛，正就是台湾。谢谢邦尼，谢谢所有的海内外的筱君台湾 Plus 所有观众朋友跟我共同见证这个独家专访。而这项独家专访在台北市林森北路台北时代寓所完成。那也非常谢谢台北时代寓所的公关室的 Winnie， 他的全力的协助，我们才得以在今天完成这一项独家专访。谢谢时代寓所的公关室，谢谢 Winnie， 也谢谢所有海内外的观众朋友。这一项独家专访，请大家勇于分享，见证台美在新时代的发展当中，美国加油，台湾加油，所有台湾民众，大家一起来加油！我是筱君姐，我们再会了，拜拜。你帮了美国很大的忙，帮助 Also America。
Not okay, all I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Fuck me, I'm looking in the mirror, so foggy, but I've never seen clearer. I don't really think anyone can save me, and honestly I'm not really sure I want saving. I like to be my own worst enemy, there's no risk if you don't try at anything. So I'ma just keep buying everything, see you in the next life. Have to be every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Yeah. All I need are some better days, 'cause all I want, and I pray, I believe in the better days.